Greetings, programs. This is Wretch. Welcome back to VTM Coteries of New York. And Xavier has himself a new friend, guys. In the last episode, Sophie had tasked us with finding coterie members across New York, and the first person we went to talk to was D'Angelo of Clan Nosferatu. Very strange for a Toreador to associate with a Nosferatu, at least in old VTM, but D'Angelo is kind of an associate of Kadir the Sheriff. And we're going to try and help out D'Angelo investigating a series of murders that have happened in Red Hook. So let's go ahead and see what happens here. With a certain fascination, you watch D'Angelo stumble his way across West Brooklyn. Oddly animated, incessantly scratching his face and neck, stopping every once in a while for a bout of mumbling narration, he's most certainly a sight to behold. Still, he seems to be getting around okay, and you take particular note of the fact that he seems to be choosing the darker, less frequented streets. There's definitely a method to his madness. Eventually, your leprous guide takes a sudden turn off of Van Brunt Street and into a particular dingy alleyway. The torn pieces of yellow police tape are a dead giveaway. This has to be the place.
Well, here we are. Time for you to earn your stripes. This is where they found them. Drained dry, not a drop of blood in him. And before you ask, no, I didn't get to see the body, so I don't know if there were any bite marks. So, what can you tell me?
You take a moment to examine the crime scene. Judging by the chalk outline on the pavement, the man was killed recently. Curiously, there doesn't appear to be a trace of blood or viscera, and you know the city's cleanup crew isn't that fast, or that thorough. Looking up, you notice a spray-painted sign on the wall. It reads, "The Blood Speaks," in big, crooked letters. You look to D'Angelo, and the Nosferatu gives you an expecting look. You point at the spray-painted sign. That looks like a clue.
Sure, kid. Might as well start with the elephant in the room. What do you think it means?
You give the sign a good hard look. It's no Rembrandt. The writing is jagged and clearly done in a hurry. Oh. Jagged. It seems desperate.
My thoughts exactly. As if someone wanted to get a message across but was too scared to stick around and write the whole damn book. So we got the abridged version. And then there's the blood, or lack thereof. And given that the murder was committed right here and the victim didn't make a sound, we can therefore conclude that
the killer was kindred.
Bingo. Only a kindred could drain a human this quickly, and this quietly. Tell me, if you were to guess, which clan would you say our killer belongs to?
Okay. What did it say? I think the blood speaks in big crooked letters. Out of what we've been told so far, maybe it's a Malkavian serial killer. They're pretty nuts, right?
Nah, kid. The Moonies can be a bit playful, but there's a method to their madness. It leaves a certain aftertaste. This right here, it just reeks of desperation. I may be jumping to conclusions, but my money's on the Thin Bloods.
He pauses and spits out the mangled remains of a cigar.
Shit. Looks like we're gonna have to pay Lawson a visit.
Larson? The Thin Blood Primogen?
No, Lawson the bicycle repairman. Of course the thin blood fucking primogen. Not sure if he knows who the killer is, but he could probably make an educated guess. In any case, we'd be doing him a favor. If it turns out that one of his is violating the Masquerade, it will put him in a hell of an awkward position. And I mean shitting upside down awkward. It's the kind of weakness the other primogen would love to exploit. His position in the council is bad as it is.
He pauses for a moment and mumbles to himself, but it's too quiet for you to make out. Finally, he lights up a fresh cigar. He takes a puff and lets the smoke escape through his crooked smile.
Alright, kid. Let's get this over with.
Compared to the industrial ugliness of Red Hook, Sterling Place is quite a change of scenery. The heavily gentrified and pleasantly dull residential area emanates the sort of peaceful apathy that rich hipsters scoff at and blue-collar workers dream of. All of a sudden, the Nosferatu stops. It almost seems like he was taking a deep breath, steeling himself for things to come.
This is the place.
And with that, he points to a surprisingly nice-looking 2-story house. The place is almost completely dark. Almost. You notice a dim light shining through the curtains of an upper-story window. It's probably safe to assume that the head of the family is working late, especially if the head of the family happens to be a vampire.
Okay, kid, we gotta be gentle about this. I'm talking velvet gloves, soft cushions, and you rang, my lord, gentle. We need to get Lawson out here without making a fuss or letting his family see us. If we blow this, he'll shut down like a speakeasy on raid night. Trust me, I know.
I assume all the kindred here in town have a history. Okay, so what's the plan?
Tell you what, how about you take the lead on this one? I'm curious to see how you handle it.
You take a step back and look around the area. The lit-up window seems like a safe bet. Now it's just a matter of getting Larson's attention. His, and no one else's. As you're trying to come up with a viable strategy, you're suddenly startled by a loud noise. It takes you a second to identify the sound as a dog's barking. And it doesn't take you long to figure out where it came from, as a bearded man leading a Rottweiler on a leash comes into view. Feeding opportunity, a man walking his dog. See, I'm going to assume that dogs still despise the undead. Most animals do, unless you had animal kin or animalism. So we're going to ignore this feeding opportunity for right now, and we'll just throw a small rock at the window. You kneel down and pick a rock off the lawn. One small enough not to break glass, but big enough to get someone's attention. Definitely we weren't going to ring the doorbell. Deftly, you chuck the rock at the window. It bounces off the glass with a quiet but audible dunk. Moments pass in silence, making you think no one got your message. Just as you start to look for another rock, you hear the window slide open. A very unassuming and slightly unshaven man in a turtleneck appears at the window. As soon as he notices you, his expression sours, like he just smelt something rotten. He addresses your Nosferatu partner in what could only be described as a very loud and very angry whisper. "Get the fuck off my lawn, D'Angelo. You know goddamn better than to show your ugly mug around here." You glance over to Angelo. He looks somewhat embarrassed, scratching the back of his neck, clearly trying to find the right angle to play this. Ooh. Should we say this is important? We wouldn't have bothered you if this wasn't important. Xavier? Stay where you are. You wait out on the lawn, listening to Larson quietly making his way downstairs. Before long, he appears on the porch, locking the front door behind him. He motions at you to follow him off to the side of the house, and there he turns towards you. "What do you want?"
It's about the Red Hook murders. We think one of yours is responsible.
Bullshit. A Duskborn's got enough trouble just staying alive out here. What could possibly make them openly violate the Masquerade?
Desperation. The killer's been leaving messages. Whoever they are, I think they know something. Something they can't share with just anyone. I know it seems far-fetched, but it's the only way this puzzle fits together.
Nah, I don't buy it. You're reaching. Trying to find a scapegoat. Get in your boss's good graces. Word gets around to Angelo. You think I don't know who you're working for? Then help us clear your people's name. What have you got to lose? Everything. I've been a thorn in the council's side for a while now. This is just the excuse they need to get rid of me.
And what if it turns out one of yours did it and you sat on your hands to protect him? You think the council won't jump on that?
He looks off into the darkness, pondering his options, and he lets out a heavy sigh. Look, I'll ask around. Consult my sources. If it turns out that one of my own is responsible, they will face justice. In the meantime, keep your deductions to yourself. I have enough trouble as it is.
Deal.
Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my family. And with that, Lawson retreats to the elusive safety of his home. You decide it's best to move along. You walk a couple of blocks in utter silence. Even D'Angelo's mumbling seems to have taken a back seat. Oddly enough, you find his newfound reticence somewhat unnerving. Finally, Nosferatu stops and turns towards you.
Hell of a night. I don't know about you, kid, but I could sure use a drink. Something warm, in a tall, sweaty glass. But first, let me tally your score. Let's see now. You did make a good first impression. I like someone who can talk themselves out of a tight spot. Talking's cheap. Bullets, not so much. You held your own at the crime scene. Nothing I hadn't figured out on my own, but hey, we can't all be professionals. And finally, when the situation called for subtlety, you managed to avoid unwanted attention. Discretion is what separates a private dick from just any old dick. All in all, you did fine. Not fine, but not bad for your first case. Don't let it get to your head. I'll be in touch. Let you know if I hear from Lawson. Be ready to meet me at the office.
The sweet smell of success, all right. He starts to walk away, but suddenly stops and turns back towards you.
And bring a notepad. Every good assistant should have one.
All right, cool. Well, that's one member of the coterie. We could rest if we wanted to, but I think we may be in good shape. I'm hoping. Maybe we should try and go for 2. So we got Jezebel. Or, the Tamika, who's made herself a haven in Prospect Park. Oh, we need to rest. Okay. It's not even going to give us the option to. Fair enough. You notice something strange by the front door of your haven. There's a letter slipped under the door in a cream-colored, old-fashioned envelope. There's no name on it, but you know it's meant for you. Opening the letter, it's clear it's been sent by someone incredibly old-fashioned. Rich or a fan of classic stationery. No normal person sends letters like this. The note is small and terse, written in elegant, delicate handwriting. You're cordially invited to a rendezvous at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. I'll be waiting to make your acquaintance tomorrow night. Look for me closer to God. There's no other information. It looks like you have a mysterious invitation for the following night. That doesn't sound pleasant. Oh. Well, we could go back to D'Angelo if we wanted to. You received an invitation to meet a mysterious someone at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. Yeah, sure. Let's see what's going on before we meet any more coterie members. We don't want to be rude. You haven't been to a church since you became a vampire, or kindred, as the euphemism goes. You've had to focus on concrete, practical things like survival and feeding. You've learned the essentials of the vampire experience, but you don't really have a clear idea of what it all means. The Cathedral of St. John the Divine is a New York landmark. You've been inside once before when you were much younger. You marveled at its Gothic facade. Looking at it now from across the street, it feels ominous. Oh, I hope we're not having to deal with true faith here. The prospect of an anonymous invitation to a secret meeting is a worrying one, but the venue is well chosen. It's hard to imagine a violent attack in a place like this with eyes everywhere. You enter the cathedral discreetly. You quickly learn this is an essential skill for a vampire, how to move without anyone noticing you. The full force of the cathedral's architecture hits you as you walk between the pews. If the architect meant to create the feeling of being small in the face of God's glory, mission accomplished. Based on the note, you're assuming that whoever you're meeting is somewhere near the front. As you step closer to the high altar, it feels as if something is dragging at your feet, as if the stone beneath you resisted your movement. Oh. Now I have to think about how Xavier would think about this. I think this would go either way. I'll tell you what, I've got a dice right here. It's a d20. Let's do 1 through 6, 7 through 12, and 13 through 20. Okay, I rolled a 2, so I guess Xavier has no use for it. Religion is superstition. It must be your nerves. As you try to shake the feeling of crushing foreboding, it occurs to you that vampires are a superstition too. There's an old man sitting in the front. You see only the back of his head, bowed down in silent prayer. Your footsteps echo on the floor and he turns to look at you. You can't take your eyes off of him. He's tall, dignified, white hair balding, a few strands escaping to the sides. He's wearing glasses and simple clerical clothing. His eyes are warm and pale, too kind for someone like you. Something's wrong. You feel heavy, as if a giant hand was pressing you down. The skin on your face is burning. Perhaps unconsciously, you expected something like this, as a vampire walking into a cathedral. Only it's not the building or God making you feel like you're burning alive. It's the man. The priest. Welcome, my child. The priest's tone is kind, but the rising panic inside is telling you that kindness is not for the likes of you. This is definitely... yeah, we need to run. The man is looking straight into your soul. You turn and run the way you came, stumbling out of the cathedral. You emerge outside confused and scared. What was that? At least you escape unharmed. Yeah, I mean, there's a second Inquisition going on, so this probably was not smart. You stand on the sidewalk, confused and scared. No enemies seem to be attacking you, and the priest didn't follow you. The night air is wet with the smells of the city, the same as every night. How did it feel? You look at the man speaking to you. That was an appropriate time for that, wasn't it? Whoops. Okay, silent the phone. He's well dressed, if a little archaic. dark-haired, handsome, like a character from an old movie. He smiles if he knows something you don't. You glance around. There are people on the street, and you don't appear to be in immediate danger. Did you do this to me? No, absolutely not. Let me introduce myself. My name is Benoit Segal. We share many things in common, even if you don't know me. Benoit offers his hand to you. Ooh. Yeah, this, like, if I was playing a game right now, I would definitely be using Auspex. Benoit is a vampire, that much is clear. He's using his blood to simulate the functions of a living body, but the rhythm of his heartbeat reveals its artificial nature. Would you mind sitting with me for a moment? Benoit points to a park bench nearby. In darkness because of a broken streetlight. Wary, you decide to follow him. Only an enemy totally unconcerned with the Masquerade would attack you here. Benoit sits down and you follow suit. For a moment, you both contemplate the cathedral in silence. I know how it feels, what you just felt. I've experienced it myself many times. For a moment, you consider how to respond. It's clear Benoit sent the invitation to come here or orchestrated this little setup. What's the point? Why did you go to the trouble of getting me here? Well, we share a connection, you and I. I'll explain it later, but right now the important thing is that it's so much easier to show than to tell. I wanted you to meet Father Anthony, or see him, experience him. Did you wonder why it felt like that? At first I thought it was because I was in a church, but then I realized it came from him, the priest. I think you're right. It does come from him. It's his faith that makes you feel like that. He's safe in his belief while you are one of the damned. Do you ever wonder what's the role of a vampire in God's creation? You stop to think. Well, of course you've wondered what this is all about. Whether it's about God or nature, you don't really know what being a vampire means. That's the trouble with the Masquerade. A human faced with a human problem can go online and find something that helps. You can't. The Masquerade means that everything there is to know about your condition is secret, hidden away. You're left relying on the unreliable opinions of people like Benoit. Suddenly, Benoit takes your hand and presses it against his chest. As he stares into your eyes, you feel his heart stop. My heart no longer beats, yet I move, I talk. Is that how God intended us to be? Well, I don't believe in the supernatural. There's a natural explanation for all of this. We just don't know it. Well, maybe there is. I don't know either. But I know that Father Anthony's faith is real. Sometimes I'm skeptical too, but in Father Anthony's presence, I know faith is real. I know it because it hurts so much. Perhaps you have questions about faith in our kind. How do you know any of these stories are true? I don't. How could I know? This is what faith is. You have to believe something. Good and evil, right and wrong, love and hate. I believe we are damned, but I also believe that there's always hope. Grace. Father Anthony's faith shows me the way. It's so easy for us to lose ourselves in a morass of occult speculation. Some of our kind revere Cain, others Lilith. Many in the Camarilla place their faith in the invisible guidance of the Methuselahs who were supposed to watch over us. Yet I wonder how much that really matters when compared to the character of a good man. So Methuselahs are 4th gen. At least I believe in this version they still are. A vampire who has existed for a millennium or more. An elder who no longer participates in kindred society. Kindred or Methuselahs are rumored to hail from 4th and 5th generations. This is a lot to take in. All of these myths, it's hard to know what to believe. I know it's overwhelming. It was for me when I first met Father Anthony. I know there are others like him, whose faith shines like a beacon. Priests, old ladies, children. Anyone can have that conviction inside them. I have to go. I can't concentrate when I know the priest is still inside. Benoit nods patiently. Let's meet again in a few nights, here at the cathedral. We can talk more after you've thought it through. You leave Benoit sitting in the shadow of the cathedral, contemplating what lies within. It would be easier to ignore his words without the reality of what you experienced. Father Anthony was holy. You know it to be true, but what does that mean? Well, that was a cool little side quest. Now the question is, who do I go and say hello to? Tremere? Malkavian? Or Gangrel? Well, tell you what. Let's go. Actually, we do have a gentleman on our coterie. Let's go ahead and go for a lady. Let's go for we're talking about like enlightenment and holiness, and sometimes Malkavians can fill those roles, a la Anatole. Sophie suggested you meet Hope, a reclusive member of the Malkavian clan, supposed to be holed up in an internet cafe in Lower Manhattan. Searching for Hope. It's a quiet, moody internet cafe. Half of its space serves as a comfy coffee bar these days, but behind a glass wall, it still has a space dedicated to rows of PCs. From the street, you can notice tired adults in casual clothes typing away absent-mindedly and some bored kids wasting late evening hours on colorful online games. If Sophie's intel is to be believed, this is where Hope has set up her haven. One of the waiters is standing outside the building, gazing at the sky with a smartphone in one hand and a vape pen in the other. You approach the man and tell him, if I told you I was supposed to meet Hope here, what would you say to me? I'd probably tell you I'm surprised. People are usually far more discreet about seeing her. The man slowly takes a drag from his e-cig, sizing you up and down in silence. After a long, awkward moment, he raises his voice again. Come. Right this way. He heads back into the cafe, and you follow his lead. Oh man. When you make your way through the space with computers, no one averts their gaze from the spreadsheets, emails, Facebook profiles, or games of Fortnite. It's a common sight, one you wouldn't have paid much attention to a few weeks ago, but now it seems so unnervingly quaint. Would they still be spending their time like this if they were immortal? The waiter unlocks an unassuming door at the end of the room and lets you inside. You two swiftly make your way through the labyrinth of sterile corridors. of sterile gray corridors, taking confusing twists and turns. Feels like you're traveling into a different world. Yes, indeed. And we are going to go into that different world at the beginning of the next episode, guys. So Xavier basically earned D'Angelo's respect, I guess, for lack of a better term. And we learned a little bit about true faith due to our encounter with the priest and our tutelage under Benoit, which was kind of awkward to see. I wonder what his whole story is. But we'll go ahead and pick it up next time. Hope you all have enjoyed it. If you liked the episode, please leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, that'd be a big help. And we'll see you as we search for hope. Later days, everyone.